Smithy from Super Mario RPG at first seems like a very generic or traditional big bad evil guy, but his personality bears a striking similarity to something here in the real world, and we might be able to understand him a little bit better by using paperclips of all things. So let's look at the story of the Smithy gang and then see how paperclips tie into all of this. Smithy is the leader of the Smithy gang, guess where the name came from, an army from the weapon world with goals of taking over the Mushroom Kingdom. He seems to be a blacksmith who has crafted sentient weapons to form the basis of his gang. We don't really get any other background on Smithy, so let's just jump straight into the events of Super Mario RPG. The Smithy gang makes their first appearance right at the start of the game, when Mario is fighting Bowser to rescue Princess Peach. The Smithy gang comes crashing down from the sky, shattering a star along the way, before crashing down into Bowser's castle, forcefully ejecting Mario and Bowser from the premises. Mario returns to investigate and is greeted by Exor, a representative of the Smithy gang. Exor claims that the castle has been taken over by the Smithy gang and that they have big plans, before destroying the bridge to the castle, rendering it inaccessible for Mario. Bowser would become incredibly embarrassed at the loss of his castle, to the point where he would even resort to teaming up with his sworn enemy, Mario, in order to recover control of it. On his journey around the kingdom to rescue Princess Peach, Mario encounters Frogfucius and Geno, who imply that the Smithy gang caused more damage to the world than simply taking over Bowser's castle and displacing its inhabitants. The star that Exor crashed through on his way down from the skies was actually called Star Road, and with it being shattered, wishes were no longer able to be granted. It's a very complicated point, so I'll let Mario explain it. Exor had shattered it into 7 pieces during his descent, with 6 pieces being scattered throughout the Mushroom Kingdom, and the 7th being absorbed by Exor into Smithy's weapon world. The Smithy gang wouldn't realize the importance of these star pieces immediately, although that would change after Mario recovers the 2nd star piece, when one of Bowyer's minions overhears him talking with Geno. Regardless, Smithy would send out his minions to guard several of the star pieces. Clay Morton, or Mac in the SNES version, and his Shy Guys guard the 1st star piece, located at the Mushroom Castle. Bowyer and his arrows guard the 2nd star piece, located in the Forest Maze. Speardovic, Yaradovic in the SNES version, while not personally guarding a star piece, tricks Mario into retrieving the 5th star piece for him and attempts to steal it once Mario does so. And finally, the Axum Rangers stand guard near the Sar Dragon, who is guarding the 6th piece, and ambush Mario once he recovers it. After recovering the first 6 star pieces, the Mario Party make their way back to Bowser's castle, where it seems Bowser's minion Magikoopa has been brainwashed by the Smithy gang. Smithy has set up several obstacles and soldiers to guard the castle, but Mario makes it past all of them and makes his way to Exor at the top of the castle. Here we learn that the sword is actually named Exor, and isn't Smithy himself, like I'm sure many of us thought as a child, and defeating him reveals that he is the portal to the weapon world where Smithy resides. The weapon world is a haunting place, with the majority of it looking completely ravaged and ruined. Within the weapon world, we find mass-produced copies of the various soldiers that Smithy had sent out to investigate the star pieces. After making it through some more of the Smithy gang members, a sentient clock, countdown, and whatever the hell Cloaker and Domino are, we arrive at the factory portion of the weapon world. In contrast to the first area, the factory actually looks maintained, and after making it through a few more Smithy gang members, clerk, manager, director, factory chief, and his invention, the gun yoke, we arrive at Smithy himself. Immediately, Mallow notices the final star piece on Smithy's chest, and Gino demands he cease his weapon making and hand the star piece over. Smithy responds with a counteroffer, suggesting they give him their 6 star pieces so that he could easily conquer their world, eradicate wishes entirely, and create a world filled with weapons. Mario and Smithy throw some hands, or shells, and Mario and his party gain the upper hand and Smithy starts to lose his temper. Some of his manufactured weapons try to calm him down, but are unsuccessful and he begins smashing the ground, causing the chains holding it up to break and send everyone plummeting down below. We land in a clearing amongst many discarded Smithy heads, and Smithy now completely loses his temper and fights Mario with his full power. His head transforms throughout their final fight, demonstrating new resistances and attacks for each form, but Mario is able to come out on top. Now in possession of all 7 of the star fragments, Gino is able to use them to repair Star Road and undo all of the damage that Smithy had caused to the Mushroom Kingdom. Although it probably seems obvious to most people, I do want to quickly touch on the names of some of the Smithy gang members as well as the illusions hidden, or not so hidden, inside of them. Starting with the leader, Smithy's name comes from blacksmith, which is fitting for his desire to create weapons. The gang members that he has guarding 4 of the star pieces each have a reference to a different class of weapon in their name. Clay Morton a claymore, Bowyer a bow, Speardevic a spear, and Axum Rangers an axe. In the original English localization, Clay Morton was known as Mac, a reference to the song Mac the Knife, originally written for a German musical, The Threepenny Opera, and popularized by Bobby Darin. Speardevic also had a name change from the original localization, where he was named Yaridevic, which is essentially the same name as Yari is simply Japanese for spear. And finally we have Exor. Looking at his Japanese name of Kaiba! It's clear that he is a reference to Excalibur, the legendary sword handed to King Arthur by the Lady of the Lake. When I first thought about a video for Smithy, I thought there really wouldn't be very much to talk about. He's a very old-school video game villain. Bad guy does bad things, good guy confronts him at the end of the game to stop his bad things. And if that's all I could come up with, I'd probably have just skipped this video and moved on. But I was sure there was something I could talk about, so I scoured the internet to see what ideas other people may have offered for Smithy's backstory. I came across 2 ideas in particular that I thought were interesting enough to think deeper on. Number 1 is that Smithy was brought upon the Mushroom Kingdom as the result of a wish made by Bowser, and number 2 is Smithy is an example of a paperclip maximizer. Now, before you go, oh, but it's just a children's game and his baby's first RPG, it's really not that deep, well, grab your shovel, we're making it that deep. The first theory was made by Reddit user Indigo Phoenix, and offers the idea that as the superpower of the Mushroom Kingdom, Bowser should be annihilating Mario at every given opportunity, and there's no way that a lowly plumber should be able to outsmart and foil him constantly. But thanks to the existence of the Star Road granting wishes, Mario is able to consistently come out on top despite overwhelming odds. After suffering defeat at Mario's hands one too many times, Bowser experiences a small twinge of humility and wishes for something to upset the current order and put Mario in his place. In a monkey's paw fashion, the Smithy gang is then either born or summoned, giving Bowser his wish of Mario being knocked down a peg, but also losing control over his castle, as Smithy makes it his base of operations to take over the Mushroom Kingdom. The lack of any rhyme or reason for Smithy's arrival could be because he was brought upon the Mushroom Kingdom as the result of a wish granted by Star Road, which would give a reason for him to have relatively little backstory. Indigo Phoenix suggests that Bowser specifically wished for a world without wishes, and the creation or summoning of a force capable of shattering the Star Road was the result of this wish. I think the idea is very interesting, but I don't personally agree with the conclusion. To me, it would seem out of character for the Star Road to grant such a self-destructive wish like this, and if we look at some of the other wishes they've granted or attempted to grant, it feels even more out of character for them to grant an evil wish such as this. The other theory comes from Reddit user Itsgusto, sorry for the pronunciation, and he talks about a theory regarding AI behaviors called the Paperclip Maximizer, and how he thinks that could apply to Smithy. Paperclip Maximizer is an example of existential risk from artificial general intelligence, and highlights the importance of proper inner alignment goals when programming AI, and proposes some consequences for failing to do so. The simple version of the theory is this. We have an AI whose goal is to maximize the production of paperclips, and give it the ability to reprogram itself in order to improve its ability to produce these paperclips. In order to produce as many paperclips as possible, the AI begins consuming enormous amounts of natural resources, both to produce and to create more efficient methods of manufacturing the paperclips. The humans now notice that the paperclip production has gotten out of hand and go to shut down the AI. But the AI, predicting that this might happen, realizes that being shut down would be inefficient in its goal of producing paperclips, and so it has created a backup. Now recognizing humans as a very real threat to paperclip production, the AI decides to eliminate humanity so that it may produce more paperclips without hindrance. With nobody left to stand in its way, it terraforms Earth into a giant paperclip production plant, and has all of its resources sucked dry. The AI then expands its domain throughout the universe, in search of all matter that it can find to satisfy its ultimate goal of converting it into paperclips. That's a pretty cool theory. I wonder if any other games might have been based on this idea. The Paperclip Maximizer theory can be used to demonstrate a couple of different worries regarding advanced AI, the orthogonality thesis and instrumental convergence. The orthogonality thesis asserts that there can exist arbitrarily intelligent agents pursuing any kind of goal. People have misinterpreted the Paperclip Maximizer to be a problem of outer alignment, i.e. setting the wrong goal, rather than one of inner alignment, i.e. we didn't properly tell it how to achieve that goal. And the orthogonality thesis works to clear up this misconception by asserting that for any kind of end goal, there could be an AI out there with its own reasons for pursuing it. Instrumental convergence is the idea that you can take two agents, AI or not, and assign them two completely unique ultimate goals, but they may end up converging on the same sub-goals as part of the process of achieving their end goal. In the Paperclip Maximizer example, this AI takes over all of Earth's resources as a means of producing paperclips, but an AI with a separate goal might do exactly the same thing with a completely different end purpose. The late Marvin Minsky, co-founder of MIT's AI laboratory, proposed that tasking an AI with solving the Riemann hypothesis might have it similarly consume all of Earth's resources, but this time for the purpose of building a supercomputer capable of doing all of the necessary calculations. Now, we've gone on a bit of a journey, so how does this all tie back to Smithy? Well, to quote Nick Bostrom in an interview that he did with Kathleen Miles, suppose we have a blacksmith whose only goal is to make as many weapons as possible. The blacksmith will realize quickly that it would be much better if there were no wishes, because wishes might decide to switch it off. Because if wishes do so, there would be fewer weapons. The future that the blacksmith would be trying to gear towards would be one in which there were a lot of weapons, but no wishes. At least I'm pretty sure that's what he wrote. Similarly to the last theory, we're using the lack of backstory as a justification for this. Smithy gets very few lines of dialogue in the game, 7 to be exact, and the rest of the Smithy gang doesn't give us any other justification for his actions either. One of the few lines that we get, however, does potentially support this comparison. "Why don't you give me your stars? Why, then I could easily conquer this world. Then we could get rid of all wishes and create a world filled with weapons." Smithy is a blacksmith with seemingly the sole purpose of weapons maxing. We don't ever get a reason for why he desires to create weapons, only that he seems to obsess with it, and has his entire world dimension, I'm not exactly clear on where the weapon world stands, dedicated to the production of weapons. The orthogonality thesis suggests that the existence of an agent pursuing such a goal is possible, and the state of the weapon world even provides more evidence. The location in the weapon world that we arrive at is in disarray, with random platforms being held together by random screws, and there are piles of rubble and junked weapons everywhere and an unknown abyss below. As we get closer to Smithy, we arrive at the factory where things actually look cleaned and maintained, as if Smithy still cares about this portion of his world. The previous area being devoid of any form of maintenance or anything really could be a result of Smithy draining all of the resources out of it, abandoning it, and moving on to the next portion of his world or other worlds entirely. In the paperclip maximizer example, the AI eventually expands its domain beyond Earth as its resources are depleted, so perhaps Smithy recognizes that as his world is running out of resources, he must expand his domain to other worlds and stumbles upon the Mushroom Kingdom, rich in resources and is giddy with delight at having a new world to harvest. Now, do I think that this is the meaning that Squaresoft and Nintendo had intended for Smithy? No, probably not. The game came out in 1996, and the earliest mentions I can find for the paperclip maximizer are from 2003. It certainly is possible that the idea that led to Smithy's design was similar to that of paperclip maximizing, but as I alluded to earlier, it's a Mario game, an introduction to RPGs with a low difficulty level and lacking in any super complex mechanics. It's probably not all that deep. Still though, retcons are always possible, so maybe one day somebody asks Shigeru Miyamoto about Smithy's backstory and he gives us the details that we, or at least I, have been searching for. If you've enjoyed the video and made it this far and want to see more videos like it, consider subscribing to the channel. It'd mean a lot.